पार्टी एक काम करती है, हिंदुस्तान के दिल में गुस्सा डालने की कोशिश करती है।
मैं गंभीर सवाल उठाना चाहता हूं।
मुसलमान लड़के हैं जिनके भाई बहनों को मारा गया है और पाकिस्तान से लोग उनसे बात करना शुरू कर रहे हैं।
क्या कारण है कि आईएसआई आपके नाक के नीचे उत्तर प्रदेश के गलियारे में जाकर के अपने पैर पसारने की ताकत रखती है? आप कर क्या रहे हो?
जब आग लगती है तो आग को बुझाना पड़ता है। आग बुझाने का काम कौन करता है? हम लोग करते हैं, कांग्रेस पार्टी करती है।
फिर आजकल सारे हिंदुस्तान को बिन सांप्रदायिकता के पाठ पढ़ा है।
मेरी दादी को मारा, मेरे पापा को मारा और शायद मुझे भी मार देंगे एक दिन।
आपकी दादी के मरने का गुस्सा आना मैं समझ सकता हूं, लेकिन उन हजारों सिखों को मारने वालों पर क्या आपको गुस्सा आया था?
कल मेरे कमरे में एक पुलिस वाला आया, इंटेलिजेंस का था वो। मैंने उससे पूछा, भैया आप कर क्या रहे हो आजकल? और वो मुझे कहता है, राहुल जी, मुजफ्फरनगर में जो दंगा हुआ है, उनको जिनको मारा गया है वहां पे, वो अब पाकिस्तान जाना चाह रहे हैं।
भारत की अत्यंत गुप्त जानकारी उस व्यक्ति के साथ कैसे शेयर कर रहे हैं जिसने कभी गुप्तता का कोई शपथ नहीं लिया है, उसके साथ शेयर कैसे करते हैं?
Hello and welcome to the final day of this round of the CNN-IBN election tracker, brought to you in partnership with India's leading news magazine, The Week. For the last 3 days, we've been looking at the key battleground states that are going to the polls over the next month. Assembly elections that could offer pointers to the big general elections of 2014. Tonight, it's time to look at that big national picture. Who is gaining nationally and why? And also answer the other big question in our poll. Who's ahead in the leadership stakes between Rahul Gandhi and Narendra Modi? Just ahead of Diwali, it promises to be a cracker of a tracker. The big headlines today. Who is ahead in the battle for 2014? Will the Congress-led UPA retain power, or is the momentum now firmly with the BJP-led NDA under Narendra Modi? Who is leading in the direct face-off for Prime Ministership between Rahul Gandhi and Modi is the other big question that we are seeking an answer to. How does the voter see Rahul Gandhi's opposition to the ordinance on convicted lawmakers? How is Modi perceived? Is he a decisive or a divisive leader in the eyes of voters? And just what are the X factors that could yet determine who will win the battle for India? That's right, the grand finale of the CNN-IBN election tracker. From Monday to Thursday this week, we've been bringing you the big picture for the key northern states going to the polls. Who is winning and why? And what impact could it have on the battle for India? On Monday, we gave you the findings of Chhattisgarh. Many believe this is a big surprise because Raman Singh appears to be well ahead at the moment of the Congress in Chhattisgarh, the BJP head. Also, Shivraj Singh Chauhan ahead of the Congress. The BJP, we believe, poised for a repeat and a hat-trick in Madhya Pradesh. On Tuesday, we looked at Rajasthan, where Vasundhara Raje, again of the BJP, is ahead of the incumbent Ashok Gehlot. The BJP appearing to do well in all these states. Then we came to Delhi yesterday, and this appears to be a fascinating three-cornered battle, where it's difficult to pick a winner, but the Aam Aadmi emerging as a serious contender in Delhi. Today we are going to raise the question, who is winning the leadership battle? Rahul Gandhi or Narendra Modi? And we will also ask the question, who is winning the battle for India? NDA or UPA? What are the big projections that we will be giving? It's time now for the election tracker on CNN-IBN. take us through that is, as always, our panel of some of the country's best political analysts and reporters. Joining me, Dr. Sandeep Shastri, National Coordinator, Lokniti Network, Pro Vice Chancellor of Jain University. Remember, it's CSDS, which Lokniti is part of, which is doing this survey for CNN, IBN and The Week. Swapan Dasgupta, senior journalist and the leading voice from the right, columnist, one of the country's most widely read columnists. Also joining me, K. Sachidanand Murthy, resident editor of the Malayalam Manorama and The Week, which is our partner in this exercise. Also joining me, Pallavi Ghosh, who is our senior editor of politics, who tracks the UPA and the Congress for us, and Modi and Rahul closely. And also joining us, Professor Dipankar Gupta, sociologist and the country's leading premier political scientist, also joining us. Appreciate all of you joining us here on our election tracker tonight. Who is the preferred choice for Prime Minister after the 2014 polls? That's the big question that many people are asking. It's a question that we've asked in this poll, both in our July and October polls. Remember, this poll is across the 4 states that are of North India that are going to the polls. So keep in mind the July election tracker was nationwide. This is largely focused on these 4 states. Let's see if anything has changed in this period. This is what our survey is showing. There's no change in Sonia Gandhi and Manmohan Singh's popularity ratings. 5% preferred them when they were asked a direct question, who would you like as Prime Minister? Rahul Gandhi's popularity has gone up marginally from about 15% to 17%. Narendra Modi's popularity is showing a much greater leap ahead. 26% preferred him for Prime Minister in July. That's now up to 35% in October. Take a look at another interesting trend that's emerging. Among first-time voters, Modi has an even bigger lead over Rahul. 37% youth between the ages of 18 and 22 wanted Modi for Prime Minister. Just 16% first-time voters opted for Rahul. So it's over 2 to 1 for Modi when you look at first-time voters. And there are about 12 crore first-time voters. Direct face-off between Modi and Rahul, when we asked them, who would you prefer in these 4 states? 45% said they would opt for Modi. 29% said they would choose Rahul for Prime Minister. So Modi getting a lead of more than about 16% over Rahul in a direct face-off. Okay, that's the big question. Should the Congress declare Rahul as a PM candidate? Well, we'll come to that in a moment. But let's first look at these 3 big pointers. Professor Shastri, would it be fair to say that when there is a direct face-off, Modi is well ahead now of the contender? That's well established. July showed that trend. October is now confirming it.
Let's also keep in mind that when we did our July tracker, Mr. Modi had not been declared as the prime ministerial candidate of the BJP. And this time when the poll was done, he has been. So this 9 percentage point increase in support for Modi as prime minister is post this development. And I think this clearly shows also when one party has its candidate clearly up front and the other is unsure of declaring the candidate, there could be this difference that comes in. Let me also add a rider that this increase of 9% is in the context of these 4 states where we have done the poll, and this also could be linked to the fact that in these 4 states the BJP seems to be doing exceptionally well as per our poll, and that may be linked to the surge in the support that Modi enjoys also.
Are we to get a sense, Swapan, would you concede that perhaps, and I've been saying this in earlier days, that there is a northwest monsoon, or certainly not a southwest but a northwest monsoon when it comes to Narendra Modi? That is greatest gains at the moment, and we are seeing that in the states that are going to the polls. In terms of his popularity, are at the moment coming in northern India, where already the BJP has a stronger geographical base.
Well, this poll is primarily concentrated around what might be called central India.
We'll call it,
okay, we can call it,
So we'll call it a north-central monsoon.
And that's partly because you've only polled in these 4 states. So we don't know. But what I think is interesting is that, as Professor Shastri mentioned earlier, it was barely 35 to 41 days between after Modi's announcement as prime ministerial candidate that these polls were conducted. In other words, communications and the system of percolation of information being very uneven in India, I think we are seeing the first bounce. We can say that this constitutes the core of Modi support. This is not the entire Modi support, because this is done prior to any sustained campaigning on the part of Narendra Modi.
But you believe that the first bounce has come as a result of the BJP openly projecting him as the Prime Minister.
Absolutely. I believe
that's what's made the big difference in the last 4 months.
And that's really, and I think we should look upon this, and I think these are very, very credible figures, and we should look upon this as really the first bounce after the announcement.
You know, Professor Gupta, there's an interesting sociological dimension among first-time voters. You know, you're seeing first-time voters, and there's a lot of emphasis this time that political parties are placing on it. Voters between the age of 18 and 23. Look at the difference between Modi and Rahul among them. Are you getting a sense that there is an attraction for Narendra Modi, particularly among the young? Ironically, even though Rahul is actually much younger than Narendra Modi.
Well, actually, I'm not quite sure if Rahul is younger than Narendra Modi. I think Rahul is 4 generations old, and Modi is actually 1 generation old. So I think that Modi, politically, he's the younger person.
How do you explain that to us? When you say that you believe that politically Modi is actually younger than Rahul Gandhi?
Because he's 4 generations old. His great-grandfather, his grandfather, his father, no, great-grandfather, grandfather, father, and he. You know, there's 4 generations. Clearly.
But what is it? What do you believe is the fundamental attraction of the young for Modi?
The young people always want to change. That's the nature of being young. And if young people didn't want to change, they wouldn't be young. Now imagine a young person saying, I'm voting for somebody who's 4 generations old, and it is a bit of a damper. But in Modi's case, the exciting part is that he's a newcomer, and he has risen from the ranks. And what is most important is that Modi is not a person who has promised them the moon and is going to deliver it, but what Modi has done is promising them a change, and that change is undefined. And because the change is undefined, you might say there is a question mark, will the young really stay with him, last the wash? I think they will, because on the other side, they don't have a clearly defined policy. But Modi is much older than Rahul, biologically.
Yes.
Modi has a white beard, Rahul often sprouts a black beard. But nevertheless, Modi, I think, is more attractive to the young, just as Anna Hazare, some years ago, was more attractive to the young than anybody else on the political spectrum.
That's an interesting point. I'm just wondering whether Modi has captured the energies of the young. We mentioned yesterday's poll, Arvind Kejriwal was doing very well among the young. Dipankar is mentioning Anna Hazare, that it's not age that matters, it's how energetic you appear.
It's the promise that
It's the promise. It's the promise of change, of breaking with the status quo, the gate crashers as they are being called. Do you get a sense of that? When that the younger generation are attracted to Narendra Modi because he's in some way offering them something different to the established order.
Yeah, also you must remember that Rahul represents the incumbency of the UPA 1 and UPA 2, which is, and the young are very frustrated, very angry with UPA, as we saw during Anna Hazare movement and other protests we had all over the country. So the young are angry with the Congress, and Rahul is the most important face of the Congress. Now it is not Manmohan Singh or Sonia Gandhi. So the anger against the
So Rahul is suffering from the anger against his own government. There's a fatigue and anger.
Yes,
are you getting that sense, Pallavi, when you've been tracking Rahul Gandhi, that Rahul Gandhi is being hemmed in by the fact that he is at the end of the day having to carry the baggage of the UPA? That wherever he goes, he's going to be asked questions about the UPA government's performance. In that sense, if Manmohan Singh's popularity dips, it affects Rahul Gandhi as well. Or is it because Rahul has just not offered something dramatically new? We still don't know what is the new vision that Rahul will offer.
I don't think Rahul has been able to cater to the impatience of the youth. I mean, one has to draw this comparison to, say, perhaps Priyanka Gandhi. I think she would have been able to enthuse the voters a bit more. Modi offers that hope, that answer to the impatience of the youth, that you are giving a solution right now. Rahul just seems to be a bit of a drag. He just goes on and on about philosophy, then ironically talks about his past. I mean, how can you keep on talking about the past? Youth is not interested in history, they want your future. Rahul offers that.
You're shaking your head there, Dipankar. Do you agree with what Pallavi says, or you disagree with what she's saying?
Well, I agree with her partly, but I think at this stage of the game, it doesn't really matter what Rahul does. He can sing, somersault, do whatever. The mood belongs to Modi right now. So very often people say that, did Rahul get his act together? Did he say the right thing or the wrong thing? But now Modi, no matter what he says, and sometimes he says terrible things, people still lap it up. For example, his invocation of Sardar Patel was a horrible mistake. If Rahul had done something like that, we'd have been piling on him. But Modi has done it, no one's saying a thing.
When you say no one is in the media, do you believe that Modi, in a sense, the media is being carried away by Narendra Modi?
There is another interesting point here.
Yes.
The 21 percentage point gap in the youth is also reflected in another section, this 21%.
Yes.
High media exposure. Those who have high media exposure, there is a 21% gap between Rahul Gandhi and Narendra Modi.
Those who are on Facebook, those who are on Twitter, those who are exposed to news media. And respond to what Dipankar is saying, that if Narendra Modi makes a mistake today, it's almost forgiven the next day. If Rahul Gandhi says something, for the next few days it becomes controversial, it's played again and again. I mean, is Narendra Modi actually almost Teflon-like at the moment?
Well, he certainly wasn't very Teflon-like for the media a few months ago. If he's become
a few years ago, I'll say.
Few months ago.
Few years ago.
A few months ago.
Okay.
And if I think what's interesting is that Rahul is fully aware that the burden of the UPA's anti-incumbency is on his shoulders, which is why throughout in various of his speeches he has made a conscious attempt, sometimes deftly, sometimes rather ham-handedly, as in the nonsense episode, to distance himself from Manmohan Singh's two-term government. But that doesn't appear to have actually succeeded, because it's juxtaposed against what Dipankar has rightly called the fourth generation of inheritance. So you think
Rahul Gandhi
owning up to four generations of inheritance and you're disowning something else.
Are we saying therefore that Rahul Gandhi makes a huge mistake when he says talks about his dadi, talks about his father, talks about the past? Are we saying he's making a mistake? He's got to talk about the future, not about the past. Is that what you're trying to say, Dipankar da? That somewhere he's got to talk about the future, not the past. He's got to offer aspiration and hope that Narendra Modi today claims to offer.
But in fact, both of them are talking of the past, which is rather sad. But even so, when Narendra Modi talks of the past by talking about Sardar Patel, nobody says anything really bad about him. But when he talks about the past, invoking a more recent past, his grandmother and father, that seems to be a terrible political blunder. And I think that in times to come, democracy would do much, much better than what it is doing now if we forget the past and think of the future. And that, I think, is the promise of democracy. And that is something that Narendra Modi somehow is able to stoke from time to time. And Rahul Gandhi hasn't quite got his act together on this front.
Yes, maybe you're right that one needn't go to the extent of L.K. Advani, who's constantly in a process of smaran hai. But I don't think the past can exactly be detached from what we are. It's the intelligent use of the past.
But someone look at the way Modi has taken this Sardar Patel issue.
Yes.
He's made a few comments that have...
Sardar Patel, by and large, it's got to be realized, is a virtually unknown figure to a large section of recent Indians.
Was it propriety, for example? Let me ask you this. Was it propriety when the Prime Minister was there at a function to say Nehru, if Patel had been Prime Minister and not Nehru, India would have been a very different country? People don't, I'm just wondering whether these rules, there were certain rules that were followed.
No.
Modi is changing the games. As you yesterday said, Arvind Kejriwal is changing the game in Delhi.
Impropriety. Asking a what-if question, putting what is called counterfactual history in the realms of as an aside, is not necessary.
If Rahul Gandhi had said something similar,
you see, the point is, it's not a question of what you say, but how you say it. And that often matters. I think in this case, Modi said it without any sense of disrespect. Rahul Gandhi often, particularly in the case of the nonsense.
Let's be honest. Still a few years ago, and let me just ask this to you, Sachin. Till a few years ago, Swapan says till a few months ago, we differ on that. Modi was seen as strident, and his stridency was seen as a negative. Today, that same stridency is being seen as aggressiveness, assertiveness, decisiveness.
But the masses. No. How are you assuming that? I think that's what I'm saying.
A few years ago, someone let me complete. A few years ago, many felt Modi was a rabble rouser. I've heard these comments being made in the media. Let's say in the media. Today, that same rabble rousing is seen as aggressiveness, assertiveness, which is contrasted with Rahul, who's seen to offer nothing new, nothing fresh.
That's where I'll take further what Professor Gupta said, that what is Modi's USP in this campaign? To trash the Congress under Nehru dynasty.
And therefore Patel is also used in that
Patel
context.
He will use, if possible, Ambedkar, he will use, I mean, Modi still hasn't thought of too many other symbols, but then that is his USP, he has to trash, and when the voters are angry with the Congress, they are not only with the Congress, but the entire dynasty itself. Whereas, you are talking about past and future. Rajiv Gandhi, after his mother's assassination, he said, I have a dream, I want to think of the future of India. He didn't talk too much of the past. He allowed the
So
Congress
you think Rahul Gandhi's problem is he's caught in the past? Modi, to his credit, let's be honest, Professor Shastri, the reason why the young are attracted to him, he's talking every time about the future and he's trying to reinvent himself. Look at the Sardar Patel analogy, Statue of Unity. Till a few years ago, Modi seen as a divisive figure, now he's talking the language of unification. He seems at times to come across as more moderate, while Rahul Gandhi turns out to be at times shrill.
I think
is Modi cleverly reinventing himself, which is why he's becoming attractive?
I think the response to both has to be seen in the context of that response. Modi comes in a particular context. He tries to make the point that I have successfully led a state, on which of course there could be a debate, and then he so aggressively portrays the fact that those against me are not capable of delivering the goods, which again goes home very strongly. So in a sense, Modi has made use of the political context in which he finds himself, and that is worked to Rahul's disadvantage, because the political context he finds himself in is something he cannot use to his advantage. He finds himself totally isolated there.
Any political leader who transfers his arena of focus from a state to the nation perforce has to modify, modulate and fine-tune his appeal. That Narendra Modi has done it. He was previously a Gujarat leader appealing to a Gujarat electorate. Now he's appealing to a national electorate. There are a lot of modifications we are seeing along the way. It's a sort of work in progress which we are seeing. So you might call it a reduction of his stridency. I would certainly say that his sharpness hasn't decreased. I think some of his priority areas have changed.
Are you seeing him reinventing himself? Is he successfully reinventing himself and thereby making the Congress almost worry about how to deal with him? The Congress is dealing with the old Narendra Modi, and Narendra Modi himself is moving a step ahead and talking about a new kind of politics. He even uses Hindu-Muslim unity now in every speech of his, Dipankar.
It's interesting that in your survey,
Yes.
Modi comes out as a decisive person, not a divisive person.
Yes.
That's interesting. But also, what's also interesting, I think, in all of this is we are forgetting that the reason why decisiveness is so important today to the electorate is because the electorate see Manmohan Singh as the ultimate in indecisiveness.
So is
in
Manmohan
many
Singh the
ways,
best election agent in a sense for Narendra Modi?
I have met a senior BJP person who told me that we really are so happy that we are contesting against a government whose head is Manmohan Singh, and should he continue to be so, we'll keep getting credit. Now this is a point that we must remember, his decisiveness. Why is it so important today? Why was decisiveness not so important? Why are programs being shelved for decisiveness in the eyes of the people?
Yes.
Of course, Modi from time to time does talk about education, he does talk about farmers' development, things like that. But all of that is not really being captured here. So what is being captured here is, here's a man who knows his mind, has got a backbone, and we're going to follow him.
You're making a good point. You believe that the real contrast that a lot of voters are drawing today is between the present UPA 2 government and Narendra Modi, not so much between even a Rahul Gandhi and a Narendra Modi.
Rahul Gandhi is a stand-in.
He's almost a stand-in, which brings me to my next question that we raise. Should the Congress declare Rahul as its prime ministerial candidate is a question we ask. 39% yes said they should. 25% said they shouldn't. A large percentage, 36%, were undecided. We asked them if they would vote for the Congress if Rahul is declared the PM candidate. Opinion divided. More than a third, 35% said yes, they could. 32% said no. 33% were undecided. Pallavi, why after those figures is the Congress still unwilling to announce Rahul Gandhi as the prime ministerial candidate?
I think they're making a huge mistake. They actually should announce. They
But
should
why
bite
not?
the bullet.
Why are they not? What are they scared of?
Rather, if you look at Rahul's speeches, he never takes Modi's name. You know, he says, "वो कहते हैं, ये कहते हैं." He talks about BJP, because even Rahul is scared to make it Rahul versus Modi, because they do realize that they're going to lose out on something.
But I
They
don't
do
understand,
realize
Pallavi,
I
there is
think
one
they
day when a
should.
Congress leader will come and say that Modi is like Bhasmasur. The next day a Congress leader will say that Modi doesn't matter in this election. Is the Congress confused?
They are confused.
Do they
Of course
want
they
to
are
make this
confused.
Rahul versus Modi, or are they scared of making it
They're
Rahul versus
scared of
Modi?
making it Rahul versus Modi. They're scared for a simple reason, as you know, Rajdeep, the Congress is, politics. I mean, if Rahul fails, then what happens? You know,
So it's the
they
fear
don't
of
want-
failure.
Yeah, it's the fear of failure. It's the risk factor.
It's almost like
they know the odds are against Rahul.
it's almost like a batsman doesn't want to face the West Indies fast bowlers because you feel he might get you
Also
out.
the fact that they are worried that the entire discontent with UPA 2 would be transferred to Rahul Gandhi if you project him as a leader, because you are projecting him the leader of a party which has been in power for 9 years and
But the
has not
survey,
done
but the
well.
survey is
may
showing
help. It
otherwise. Is
actually
it
may
fair
help
to
the
say?
Congress.
Is it fair to say that our survey clearly suggests that it would be a much tougher contest for Modi if the Congress chose a prime ministerial
Yes,
candidate
yes,
rather
yes.
than keeping Manmohan Singh there as their face?
But even then, please notice the graphic you showed. It's a one-third division. One-third say Rahul Gandhi should be projected, one-third say he should not be projected, one-third say we are not sure. So it's not overwhelming support saying yes, he should be projected and we support
I think the
that.
message over there is that they don't want Dr. Manmohan Singh to be the face of the government,
Yeah,
of the Congress party. That's where the Congress needs to make that
to
clarity.
take Dr. Dipankar Gupta's point forward. You believe that Manmohan Singh is actually weighing down Rahul
Yeah,
Gandhi in this
exactly.
election.
He's a drag.
He's a drag.
There's no doubt about it. If politics is bread and circus,
Yes.
no one's talking bread now. We're all
Yes.
talking circus. In that sense, I think Manmohan Singh is going to be a drag because he just cannot perform. He cannot ride horseback. He cannot make lions go to the roof.
Can I
whereas
just
he
flip,
can.
can I just flip that argument?
No, if
Sopan?
it is a circus,
Yes.
I think there is a great deal of confusion within the Congress of how to deal with the trapeze artist. You see, at one level, you first started off with the assumption that Modi is a divisive figure. The moment he's announced, there will be a complete en masse swing towards the Congress. That didn't happen. Next, you tried to say Modi is nothing but a Gujarat leader, so you get hold of every single spokesman for the Gujarat Congress and catapult them onto the national stage, believing that will remain, that will what will be. Now that is not working. Finally, I think the Congress at every state is sort of shifting its stance on how to tackle
But
Modi,
remember-
because they don't want to
Can I-
frontally tackle him.
Can I for a moment just shift the thing and say, is Modi happy that the contest becomes Rahul versus Modi? The manner in which he uses the word Shehzada repeatedly. Does it suit Narendra Modi to make this contest about Rahul versus Modi, or does it suit Modi to give Manmohan Singh as the person you should contrast me with? What suits Modi more, Swapan?
Ultimately, as
The use of the word Shehzada. It seems that there is a deliberate strategy to suggest the entitled versus the chaiwala's son who's coming in from the outside.
as the elections come nearer, Manmohan Singh is going to fade more and more into the background. It's going to be less and less important. So whether the Congress declares Rahul Gandhi its candidate or not, perforce in the minds of the people, Rahul Gandhi is the prime ministerial candidate. Now by making formal what is obvious,
No, but
I think the
that's-
Congress will
that's
actually
wrong.
help
No,
itself.
I don't think it works like that. I don't
But
think
therefore
that's-
the attack will be on Rahul Gandhi.
Yes, Sachin.
My thing is, Rahul has to tell the people, I am the prime ministerial candidate. It's not the party declaring, which he is not speaking. He said,
There was one
One day he said, no,
there
yeah,
was
Sarkar.
one speech he made in
it was
Rampur in
government
Uttar
of the young
Pradesh
people.
where he said 2014 will see a government of young people.
Young people.
Do you
Yes.
believe that is the only hope in a
no,
sense
No,
for
but then
Rahul
the next
Gandhi?
day he went on to say Manmohan Singh is my political guru, so people got
And then
confused
he
all
was-
over again. You
yeah.
can't do this.
Exactly. You
can't-
means
you can't
he
shift.
may nominate somebody else, like his mother nominated Manmohan
Yeah,
Singh.
there will be a
So there is
Manmohan Singh
a-
without
You know, Indians, we have seen now elections are becoming at one level presidential.
Presidential,
People
that's
want to
what-
know who
correct.
is my prime ministerial candidate.
Yeah.
At one side, I have Narendra Modi, who is aggressively, ambitiously saying, I want to be the prime minister of India. On the other hand, you've got someone who seems to be a reluctant crown prince who doesn't appear to be willing to tell us whether he wants to take any responsibility, be it prime minister or even a minister in the government. Does that make a difference?
I think the
upper in
Congress's
the survey
challenge
figures?
is you have a existing leadership which knows it may not continue, and you have a new leadership which is projected by the party which is not willing to take over. And therefore Modi attacks both Manmohan, because Manmohan represents the past and present, And he attacks Rahul because he is the potential future. In that way, he's taking care of all the fronts in the way he's attacking the Congress party.
Let me give you a final word before we take a break. Yes,
Yeah, you mentioned how Modi was first seen as a divisive person,
Yes.
a Gujarati person, etc., and how now we look at him this way.
Yes.
It's not just we have changed our optics on him. The fact is Modi himself has morphed. Modi now, when he talked about, say, Modi 2002, the way he reacted to the Godhra riot and after, and Modi today is a huge difference. And I think Modi has made us think differently because he is now thinking, he's a
what's the
projecting.
biggest difference? What's the biggest difference you see in Narendra Modi?
Modi is today talking development. Congress didn't talk development in Gujarat for a long, long time, and I just thought, why weren't the Congress saying that we had did a lot to develop Gujarat? They just let it be. They kept calling Modi a killer, and that was the wrong thing to do. They should have taken on Modi on development, which they did not. It was almost as if the Congress was afraid of winning. And now when Modi has got development in his backpack, nice and solid, you can't dislodge it. And what Modi has done is moved away from being divisive, talking about Pakistan and Mia Musharraf and the rest of it, and he's talking development. And poor Rahul Gandhi is talking about divisive things, than
Like Muzaffarnagar.
Exactly.
So Rahul Gandhi is talking the old narrative,
Yeah.
and Narendra Modi is now talking the new narrative.
It's so ironical that Rahul Gandhi is plumbing for ethnic identities and things of the sort, whereas Modi has moved on and said, let Hindu and Muslim come together, and that's how we'll develop, and so on and so forth. The big mistake he made in recent times is talking Patel, because once you go into history, all kinds of cans open up, with all kinds of worms of different descriptions. So I think he'll be best advised to keep quiet, and I think Rahul will be best advised to push this history further and make something out of it.
Okay, let's take a break at this point, because when we return, we are going to look at that. How are people now perceiving Narendra Modi? The question that we are raising at the moment, how are people perceiving Rahul Gandhi, particularly in the context of the ordinance and his protest against the Prime Minister? Perceptions of the two leaders when we return. Welcome back to the CNN IBN election tracker in partnership with India's leading news magazine, The Week. You'll get all the details in The Week this weekend in their issue. The big question that we are raising today is the national picture across the 4 battleground states and comparing the popularity ratings of Rahul Gandhi and Narendra Modi. How do people, the voters, perceive Modi in these states? The largest number, 26%, consider him a leader who takes good and strong decisions. 21% felt he's capable of developing the country. Add that and it's 47%. Only 10% felt he practices the politics of division and discrimination. Remember, this is in these 4 states. A small number, 3%, consider he's unsuitable for leading a coalition government. Take a look at Rahul Gandhi and particularly the public perception of him after his comment of nonsense against the Prime Minister's ordinance or the government's ordinance. We asked respondents if they felt Rahul opposed the ordinance on convicted politicians only after public outrage. 37% said yes. Just 11% disagreed. Was Rahul's open opposition to the ordinance an insult to the Prime Minister? Yes, it was, says, say 30%. Just 15% felt it wasn't an insult. These are fascinating numbers that are coming out, particularly Modi, who for the longest time in the last decade has either been Maut ka Saudagar or has been seen as someone responsible for failing to control the riots in Godhra. Those are in Gujarat. Those are black spots on Modi. But it appears 10 years later, people today see him as decisive more than divisive. What explains this change, according to you, in these voter percentages? And is it across classes or primarily among a certain section that we are seeing it, or a certain state?
I think there are 2 issues here. One, what we discussed in the earlier section, the repackaging of himself that Modi has done, specifically in the context of those he is challenging. Now, those he is challenging are often seen as those who have not been decisive, if you take UPA 2. So in that context, he has projected himself as somebody who is strong, who is decisive, at least in these speeches that he's making. And that has paid dividends. And that's why when people are asked what's the most important quality, he has 26% say it is that he is strong and decisive. And this whole question about his being somebody who discriminates against groups or people, that has gone way into the background largely because of the way he has projected himself today.
Is it about image management? You know, is it about careful, artful image management, strategic management? I mean, a case study for anyone who wants to learn how to do political brand management, or is it more than that?
Well, I mean, there has been a degree of brand management, no doubt. Every politician
Spin doctoring?
Every politician must do a bit of spin. But I think it's been defined by the context. And more than anything else, if today the events of 2002 or other associated controversies have receded into the background, and in fact are hardly spoken of, in fact, it's primarily because the principal issues which agitate the government are issues on which Modi is seen to be the strongest in terms of remedying them. In terms, exactly what we were talking about, the question of indecisiveness, the question of corruption, the question of drift, the yearning for a strong leader has not come because India per se believes in a strong leader. It has come because there's a particular context which defines
so Modi is at the right place at the right time.
Modi
He's
is
at the right place at the right time.
He's a child. He's a child of the UPA's mismanagement.
You know, to that extent, if India was growing at 8%, if the Prime Minister was seen to be taking decisive steps, do you believe that Narendra Modi's popularity would not be half of what it is today? That Modi is not about what Modi represents as much as getting the benefit of what the UPA is unfortunately seen to represent today?
Absolutely correct, because we look at the parallel of 2009 elections. India had grown very well during that period. There was much more confidence in the country itself. People were confident of their country, and Manmohan Singh had won a decisive battle. Then we were questioning about image management. I am reminded of as Modi's campaign progresses, I am reminded how another BJP leader went against a very indecisive leader of the Congress party, was perceived to be very corrupt. That is Atal Bihari Vajpayee. You see, Modi has...
You're talking about the 1996
Modi has packaged himself partly on how Vajpayee handled. You look at the style of his delivery, his pauses, everything. I mean, all of them try to imitate Vajpayee, but Modi does it the best.
You know, you've done the authoritative book on the Shiv Sena. I know an old colleague of mine who one day rang me up and said, you know, Modi's speech reminds me of Bal Thackeray and the rabble-rousing. But clearly, he's actually gone well beyond that. So, it's again looking at Modi from an old prism. Are we seeing Narendra Modi in a new avatar? I come back to it. Or do you believe this avatar is only being shaped by what we see on the other side, which is, as you've been calling, an impression of indecisive leadership? That if Manmohan Singh was changed tomorrow, and let's say a Chidambaram or a new leader was brought in, Dipankar Gupta, would Modi find it more difficult to project himself as a strong leader? Or is it too late now?
Well, the alternatives you just proposed are not really good alternatives. Chidambaram is not the person who would be...
So what kind of person do you believe could take on a Narendra Modi, if at all? Does the Congress or UP have anyone you believe who could take him on?
If you ask me,
yes.
I think there'd be really a flutter in Modi's camp if Sonia Gandhi were to say, I'm going to be Prime Minister, the candidate.
You're saying Sonia Gandhi is the only person you believe who can take on Narendra Modi?
She'll create a real flutter in the camp.
But unfortunately,
unfortunately, Sonia Gandhi doesn't have her mother-in-law's instincts.
And we're speaking on Indira Gandhi's death anniversary today. You believe that Sonia Gandhi is the only... How would she be able to counter Narendra Modi? He would raise foreign origins.
He wouldn't raise foreign origins. He himself has said the foreign origins are not an issue any longer. What Sonia Gandhi would bring on the table is this whole business about being pro-poor. There are many people in this country, a large number of lower middle class to lower class people in this country, poorer people, who do think that Sonia Gandhi has a heart in the right place, but for all these other people, things are not going well.
But I thought Rahul Gandhi is also trying to talk the language. It's not working for him. Why is the language not working for Rahul Gandhi?
If Sonia epitomizes that one, and B, Sonia is more presentable. For God's sake, you must remember that. She has a gravitas about her, which is very important. You must remember now, we don't really care about institutions anymore. Mrs. Indira Gandhi killed the Congress, it's an institution, and Modi has done his best to kill the BJP as an institution. What really matters is people. And that is the most important thing, which is why you say presidential, etc., etc. It's not really presidential. It is plebiscitary kind of election. Do you want this man or that man? And that is what counts. If you look at the reasons the people give for wanting a prime minister of a different sort, the first thing they say is honesty. You're serving.
That's right.
The second thing says decisiveness. And the third thing surprise of surprises, they say that we want a secular leader.
It's the secular is second.
It's number three.
Number three.
Yes. Number three.
Yeah.
Second number three.
That's right.
Right
Honesty
there.
and decisiveness is
And then
emerging
second
the two
number
most
three.
powerful
And
reasons.
they say all of this, and then they say Modi. So you see what has happened is that Modi's 2002 image is now gone. The good thing about the people is they forget history. The bad thing about leaders is that they keep remembering history.
Well said, Dipankar Gupta. But let's turn to Rahul Gandhi here. The figures that we are getting on the ordinance. Most people are saying that Rahul Gandhi reacted even to the ordinance after public outreach. Do you get the sense that Rahul Gandhi is not an instinctive politician? Pallavi, what he did even in the case of the ordinance, that somewhere Rahul Gandhi has not been on the shop floor. Had he spent, let's say, a few years in Uttar Pradesh, taking on a Mulayam and taking on a Mayawati, he would have been perhaps better off. At the moment, he is surrounded by advisors who are leading him from one decision to a completely different
I don't
decision
agree
the next
with,
day.
I'm sorry, but I don't agree with a lot of what is being said about
Yes.
Rahul over here. Rajiv, I think Rahul can still do it. It's just a missed opportunity. He can be the rebel. He wants to be. The problem with
What does
Rahul
Rahul
is,
Gandhi want to be? He wants to be the angry
see,
young
that's
man.
the problem.
What does he wants to be?
That's
The rebel?
problem. Rahul doesn't know what he wants to be. One day he wants to be the rebel. The next day he wants to follow the line. One day he takes on the prime minister, the institutions, the entire cabinet, even his own mother, who was a part of the core group meeting which gave that nod to the ordinance.
Right.
So that day it clicked because he was seen as a person who's going to be the rebel within the party and the government. Next day he falls in line. And then they're very confused. Then you're saying my mother's my political guru, Dr. Manmohan Singh is my political guru, Antony is my political guru. So people are confused.
Are you saying that Rahul
I think he
Gandhi
needs to
should
revolt
stick
a
to
bit
the
more.
image of being a rebel within the Congress?
I think
that
so. He needs to revolt
that I am.
more.
He needs to lead a revolt within the Congress.
Exactly.
He needs to be a new young Turk.
He needs
is
to
what you're
change
saying.
the Congress, not in the way he's wanting to change it, of taking out his laptop and I'll do a Google and I'm going to find a perfect constituency. He needs to be the rebel. He needs to stand out. He needs to do more of those ordinance nonsense stuff, though perhaps not that language. But I think he also needs to take on Dr. Manmohan Singh.
Rahul Gandhi needs to take on Manmohan Singh. Yes, Dipankar.
I go along with Pallavi in the sense that the young Turk is a good idea.
Yes.
But instead of being a young Turk, Rahul is like the James Dean of the Congress because he's a rebel without a cause.
He's a rebel without a cause. Yes,
What I like about Dipankar
Yes.
is how it's almost that he's attending a wake, clutching onto straws desperately. Bring in Sonia Gandhi. Bring in Sonia Gandhi. Bring in anything, And here we are
I don't
talking
think
about a
Dipankar is a
person
Congress strategist, but go ahead.
I'm not suggesting that Dipankar is a Congress person, but I think sometimes the allergy which Dipankar has towards the person who's leading the poll is quite obvious, and that's quite legitimate. But here we are trying a very desperate thing, which is we are trying a very desperate. How do you reinvent? How do you
beyond the allergy and the untouchability?
How do you reinvent a confused man who, as Pallavi has said, is terribly confused?
He's very confused.
He's very confused.
We are
but
confused.
yet
He's well-intentioned.
He's well-intentioned.
Yeah, but people don't see that.
Well-intentioned.
No,
There are a lot of people who are
people don't understand that.
well-intentioned. The point is, here you're talking about the biggest job, biggest political job in the country. And you're saying that this man, he's so terribly confused, he's so terribly well-intentioned, but he can still do it because he's got a bloody good surname. That's the underlying thing.
That's not what we are saying.
I don't think anyone has said that.
Otherwise, why would the argument be that, look, why are you saying take on Manmohan Singh?
Yeah, he needs to. He
I
needs
would
to
have
have
said that the
identity.
best thing you could have said was let the Congress junk this person.
I think,
Okay, hold on. Let me bring in Sandeep. Yes, Sandeep.
Shapan is being a little uncharitable to Rahul here.
Yes.
I confess I am.
No, I think let's accept the fact that the poll and everything else shows there is that base of support which Rahul enjoys among Congress supporters, among others.
Yes.
The only thing is, I think the Congress strategists have not been successful in packaging Rahul as a possible.
No, but what does
leader for the
Rahul
future.
stand
No,
for?
he doesn't want to be packaged.
Pallavi, just a minute,
Strategists
Swapan. What does Rahul Gandhi stand for? Let's be clear. I am still confused. What does he represent apart from being the grandson of Indira Gandhi, the son of Rajiv Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi, and the great grandson of Jawaharlal Nehru? What else does he represent for a new India? For my son's India at 18 years, they want to know the future. The point we started off with, they don't want to know whose son and whose grandson you are.
there is the potential to bring together the youth in the party. There is the potential to lead the next
But he hasn't
generation.
done it. He's been 10 years in politics and he's
that's
43.
That's the point I'm making. The opportunity for that is there, which the party has not made use of in an effective manner.
Professor Shastri, even after they lost Uttar Pradesh, he said Uttar Pradesh is my karma bhumi, I'll go there. He rarely goes. He still only goes to Amethi. He should have crisscrossed Uttar Pradesh on a yatra. Why doesn't he take those? I mean, he's not a 24/7 politician at the
That's
moment.
the point
and
I'm
Indian
making.
politics has changed.
That's exactly the point I'm making. The potential which should have been brought together by all the leaders in the Congress who are trying to project him, that is not happening. You see, he is being left to go forward, and then people are leaving him and he's left to decide his own strategy
Yeah,
at
but
that
you see,
stage, rather than helping him in a
the-
cohesive manner to
Can
take
I
it forward.
get
That's
Dipankar
what
Dadar to answer what, since Swapan said that you have an allergy for Narendra Modi and therefore you are offering Congress some straws which they can clutch onto. Is there an allergy you believe also towards Narendra Modi still among a sizable section of Indians? Let's be clear, which goes beyond the minority.
You see, the thing is this, that I have I've always believed that both sides,
Yes.
plague should visit both sides.
Right.
I've never thought that Congress was above reproach or Modi was above reproach. So let's put that away.
Yes.
If he wants to be a cat among pigeons, he's welcome to that position. But the fact of the matter is that right now, Mr. Rahul Gandhi had the chance of his lifetime.
Yes.
If he had said, I'm going to be the chief ministerial candidate of UP,
Yes.
that was a chance of a lifetime, which he blew it. And if he had said this, even if he had lost the election, even
This is
let us-
2012.
yeah, even in 2012, let us say the young Yadav takes over, Rahul would have made a great impact politically. But by playing hide and seek, he's really ruined it. And I think that Rahul Gandhi, from that day onwards, has been on a decline, just as Anna Hazare has been on a decline when he said, you guys should follow me, you guys should imitate me. That was a great letdown. Likewise, in Rahul Gandhi's case, he's staying away from taking responsibility in UP. I was in UP at that time, and believe me, so many people said to me, we are not going to vote for Congress, but should Rahul Gandhi say, I'm going to be chief minister, we might vote for
But
it.
he's never missed an opportunity to miss an opportunity. So now you've reached a
exactly.
stage where the people are being offered an alternative, which they are finding much more attractive, Sachi. So let's give Modi credit that he has gone there. He's a 24/7 politician. He's proved himself in Gujarat, and therefore people believe that there is a contrast between an inexperienced Rahul Gandhi and someone who comes with the credit in a way of claiming to be the Vikas Purush of Gujarat.
Rajdeep, let us look at the context of this poll. It is only in 72 Lok Sabha constituencies.
Point taken.
And there are many other players all over the country. You know, the entire eastern half of the country, from Assam to Tamil Nadu.
Sachi, let me stop you at that moment, because that's precisely what we're going to look at in our next segment.
right.
That there are X factors that are there. That this is, remember, primarily about central or north central India, where at the moment Modi is clearly scoring over Rahul Gandhi in the leadership stage. But how is this going to play out in a national projection, and what are those X factors that could dramatically, if at all, alter the equation? Coming up, the big question, is there a momentum shift towards the BJP, and what are our national projections in our October election tracker? That's in a moment from now. You're watching Election Tracker on CNN IBN. Good evening, hello and welcome to the grand finale of this round of the CNN IBN Election Tracker, brought to you in partnership with India's leading news magazine, The Week. For the last 3 days, we've been looking at the key battleground states that are going to the polls over the next month, assembly elections that could offer pointers to the big general elections of 2014. Tonight, it's time to look at the big national picture. Who is gaining nationally and why? And also answer the big question in our poll, who is ahead in the leadership stakes between Rahul and Narendra Modi? It promises to be, before Diwali, a cracker of a tracker. The big headlines. Who is ahead in the battle for 2014? Will Congress-led UPA retain power, or is the momentum now with the BJP-led NDA under Narendra Modi's leadership? Narendra Modi emerges as the clear preferred choice for Prime Minister in the 4 poll-bound states. Rahul Gandhi's ratings rise only marginally. First-time voters show strong preference for the BJP's PM candidate. And what are the X factors that could yet determine who will win the big battle for India? All that and more with a special panel coming up in a moment. But first, our other headlines as well. One of the suspects in the Patna blast case gives the Bihar police the slip, escapes from an NIA safe house where he was being interrogated. NIA claims Mere Alam was a witness and not an accused. The Sensex closes at a record high. The Nifty closes at its highest level in 3 years. Markets record a 5 lakh crore turnover for the first time ever. There's some good news ahead of Diwali. Petrol prices cut by 1 rupee 15 paise a litre. Diesel prices up by 50 paise though. Jet fuel prices drop as well. The Uttar Pradesh police admits to lapses even as the Supreme Court expresses concern after a fresh bout of communal clashes in Muzaffarnagar. Leave 4 people dead, 8 are arrested. There's still suspense over whether the Prime Minister will travel to Colombo for the Chogam summit next month. The DMK warns of consequences if the PM takes the trip. And the Supreme Court orders bureaucratic reforms, asks the centre and states to form a board for civil servants transfers and postings, says with frequent transfers they have no security. That's right, from Monday to Thursday this week, we've been bringing you the big picture for the key north central states going to the polls next month. Who is winning and why, and what impact could it have on the battle for India? On Monday, we gave you the findings of Chhattisgarh, where clearly Raman Singh was ahead. We also told you how Shivraj Singh Chauhan has the advantage in Madhya Pradesh over the Congress. On Tuesday, we looked at Rajasthan, and here again it was Vasundhara Raje who appeared set to return to power after a gap of 5 years over Ashok Gehlot. On Wednesday, we looked at what appears to be a tough three-cornered battle, slight edge to the BJP, but Aam Aadmi also a contender, and the Congress not entirely ruled out in Delhi. Then we spoke a short while ago about the leadership stakes between Narendra Modi and Rahul Gandhi, where Modi appears to be ahead. But how can all that we've done over the last 4 days affect the national picture? Take a look at what happened in these 4 battleground states in 2009 Lok Sabha. Let's take a look at the numbers. 2009 results, 72 Lok Sabha seats across Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Delhi. The Congress won 40, the BJP won 30. That was the picture then. Our July projections, when we did our first tracker, showed 27 for the Congress, down 13, and BJP was up by 12 to 42. How is this now all transferring given the latest poll survey that we've done in these 4 states? Let's go straight to Dr. Rajiv Karandikar of the Chennai Mathematical Institute. He's our statistician who does the projections. Rajiv, what is it looking like if elections were held today in these 4 states for the Lok Sabha?
Rajneet, if elections were held today and people vote the same way as they voted for the Vidhan Sabha, then Congress would be down to 12 and BJP zooms up to 57 out of this 72. So between July and now, a change of 15 seats from Congress to BJP. That is my assessment based on the current polling data.
Would it be fair to say that these are states, Rajiv, where Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha you usually see similar voting patterns?
Yeah, since in these states, the 2 key players are Congress and BJP for state as well as for the centre, there would not be that much of a change between the Vidhan Sabha and Lok Sabha, unlike states where there are regional parties.
Okay.
There is a difference. Here, I think they should be similar.
Okay, similar. Then how is all this transported? Let's take a look now. October projections, as Rajiv said, the Congress from 40 in 2009 is now down to 12, loss of 28 in these states. BJP from 30 is up to 57. That's an advantage of 27. How is this now all being projected on our national picture? Take a look at what we are saying. These are the big numbers now. 543 Lok Sabha seats. In July, we projected the entire country. UPA 149 to 157, NDA 172 to 180, others 208 to 216. Assuming that the other states unchanged, take a look based on just these 4 states, how the scene is changing. In October, now the UPA is down to 134 to 142 because of the loss suffered in these 4 states alone. NDA is now edging towards the 200 mark. That's a critical mark. 187 to 195 for the NTA. Others which are not in contest in these 4 states remain where they are the same. Take a look at the Congress-BJP battle. That's also changing now in our projections. In July, we said 131 to 139 for the Congress. Now the Congress is coming down to 116 to 124. BJP 156 to 164 in July. It's now coming up to 171 to 179. And remember, we are only looking at these 4 states. Once the other states come into play, is there a momentum shift towards the BJP? The big question that we are now raising, is there a momentum shift towards the BJP? It's time now for the election tracker and our analysis. That's right. Let's go straight across to our panel, introduce them. Joining me is Professor Sandeep Shastri, Pro Vice Chancellor at Jain University, also Director at the Lokniti Network, which along with CSDS has done this poll for us. Swapan Dasgupta still with us, who's been there right throughout, leading voice from the right and one of the country's most read columnists. Sachidanand Murthy of The Week, our sister, our partnership in this exercise, resident editor of The Week and Malayalam Manorama. Dipankar Gupta, one of the country's leading social scientists, is joining us, and he's someone who keeps a close eye on politics, has written some of the most definitive books on Indian political sociology. And Bhupendra Chaube, National Affairs editor of CNN IBN, is also with us. Also joining us are our political guests. We are bringing in the politicians now. Joining me is Yogendra Yadav, who now is a politician, I might add. He is not anything to do with the survey, contrary to what many believe. He is, of course, now a member of the Aam Aadmi Party. Ravi Shankar Prasad, looking a little tough there. Ravi Shankar Prasad, you can afford to smile after looking at those figures. I'll also be joined by the Congress person in just a moment. They will join us in a moment. Abhishek Manu Singhvi of the Congress will join us in a moment. Let me get first reactions to those numbers from our politicians. Ravi Shankar Prasad, you seem to be edging, or the NDA seems to be edging towards 200, and this is just on the basis of these 4 states. If where polling will take place next month, Lok Sabha, you are edging towards 200. Do you have reason to smile? Do you believe that you'd be satisfied with 200, or is it still mission 272, which seems a little tough at the moment?
Well, Rajdeep, this is the shift which has taken place in 2.5 months' time.
Yes.
Elections are still nearly 200 days ahead.
Yes.
Mr. Narendra Modi has been made the leader. It is hardly 47th or 48th day. Now you see, it is basically a yearning for change in the country because of Congress-led UPA's malgovernance, stinking corruption, lack of development, serious threat of national security. The people of the country want a stable government, an effective government in quest of good governance. That being the dominant theme, I can only tell you this whole change which is coming about, that Congress is down to 12 in these states from 42. And the BJP up to 57, this trend will replicate in many other areas. Yes, I do concede that regional parties will play a role. But coming as it does, the quest for a stable India, it is only the BJP-led alliance. And today you are giving NDA 200.
Yes.
I think after 2-3 months, you will have to give BJP 200 plus.
Okay.
Apart from NDA.
Okay.
I'm sure which we are going to make it.
You don't have to be belligerent today, Ravi Shankar Prasad. You can give us a smile. Occasionally when things are going in your favor, in your pose, it's nice to have a leader smile. So we hope that Ravi Shankar Prasad by the end of the program will be smiling a bit more.
Well,
Yes.
Rajdeep,
Yes.
Then you will give me a comment
Yes.
that I am being very elated, therefore I am smiling.
Okay.
Let me remain my normal self.
Okay. You're
Na jeet mein na haar mein.
Acha,
Let me remain my normal self.
Okay, let me turn to Abhishek Manu Singhvi. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, what is emerging clearly is that in bipolar contests, and all these 4 states, barring to an extent Delhi, are seeing bipolar contests. The BJP, as per our poll surveys ahead of the Congress. Now, before you dismiss poll surveys, would you concede at the moment that the Congress is facing a tough climb, particularly in the states going to the polls, and that could mean a momentum shift going into the general elections?
I'll go further, Rajdeep. Going by your poll,
yes,
it's all over bar the shouting. Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad is not being same in har and jeet.
Yes.
You can see that it's all over bar the shouting. He's self-congratulatory, he's patting on the back himself, and obviously he has won the CNN IBN election just now. The national elections are over because CNN IBN has clearly declared the winner. And I concede that there is nothing I can say if those figures are correct.
But
all I can say, Rajdeep, is that if we start doing this self-congratulatory, self-patting on the back, sometimes history teaches us, gives a nasty shock. I find it very strange that the very surveys, and I recollect being on several channels hardly a few months ago, not months, I would say just a couple of months ago, which gave a difference of less than 5 to 7 to 10 seats between BJP and NDA.
That's precisely what we are saying. There is a momentum shift.
One minute. Allow me to complete.
Please go ahead.
Allow me to complete. Rajdeep, use of supersonic adjectives like momentum shift don't create supersonic rockets of votes. If within 8 weeks you are showing from a 10-seat difference to a 60-seat difference, I think that itself is an internal contradiction. I am helpless in that I have no counter survey to show you. I have to proceed on your survey, and I am arguing this, as they say, on an assumption. So on this assumption, it's all over bar the shouting. I find it very amusing. And I'm reminded of 2004, when after 2004, for 3 years, most channels stopped doing polls. After what the 2004 opinion polls and the 2004 results showed.
Let me turn to Yogendra Yadav, and you can wear both hats, Professor Yadav, as a politician and a cephalogist. Would you concede that maybe things can change in the next 5 months? The example being given by Abhishek Manu Singhvi is of 2004. Or do you also sense a clear momentum shift in this election? In Delhi, we are seeing it in favor to some extent of the Aam Aadmi Party. In other states, we are seeing it towards the BJP. But anger against the centre appears to be benefiting in some states the BJP, in some states the Aam Aadmi Party. Or do you believe we are being a little bit premature?
Rajdeep, when I saw your July tracker, I thought the ruling party would take cue, advance the national elections and cut its losses. At that moment, I thought this would have been the smartest thing for the ruling party to do, go with general elections along with these things so that the losses could be cut. And what your current surveys are showing is just the lack of judgment exercised by the ruling party, because clearly things have got worse for it. In July, you were saying that there are massive losses for the UPA, but no corresponding gains for the NDA. Now, what you're showing is that there are also some corresponding gains for NDA. You could say, of course, that these elections, which usually take place 6 months before the national election, do not always translate. The simile of semi-final, final is not correct. You could also say that these are very state-specific verdicts, especially in Madhya Pradesh, perhaps also in Chhattisgarh, in some ways in Rajasthan also. At the same time, if you put it together, there is something of a trend, and the trend is that in the political vacuum that the ruling party and the ruling coalition has managed to create, the BJP seems to be gaining in many states. If there was no Delhi in this survey, and if Delhi was going entirely the BJP way, you could have said we are beginning to witness a BJP wave. But because Delhi shows a very different trend, notwithstanding the exact result, which is very difficult to say at the moment, but all that we know is that there is a vacuum, and the vacuum and the beneficiary of the vacuum in some states is BJP. In other states, the one state happens to be Aam Aadmi Party. This could translate somewhat differently in some other states of the country. But clearly, the crisis of the ruling party has got much worse, and we are looking at a very difficult scenario for the ruling party right now.
Abhishek Manu Singhvi, are you going to, I know it's tough for any leader, and I appreciate your position that you are only going by the figures that we have. But would you concede, and Yogendra Yadav has made one point, that maybe to cut your losses, you could have even held Lok Sabha elections along with these assembly elections. The more you delay, you've got double-digit inflation, there is a sense that the economy is not really picking up as much as you might have hoped. Do you believe that you delayed, the more you delayed the election, and we've seen this, and I'm giving you the example again of 2004 and 9. Once a party gets momentum, they get 20-30 seats more by the time Lok Sabha comes. Should the Congress still be calling for an election, maybe even as early as February, not wait till April, May?
Rajdeep, these are all double-edged arguments. They cut both ways. The person only who is wiser after the 2014 elections, rubs his hands in glee and said, I told you so.
Yes.
Today, I am reminded when you talk about, and of course, please remember, I am only reacting to given figures. I am reacting to a survey.
Yes.
I am obviously made my caveat that I don't accept them.
Yes.
Now, I am reminded of 2003.
Yes.
Mr. Vajpayee declared elections in December or January of 2004.
Yes.
In around September, he was convinced by similar logic that he must go and since there were elections and polls in Rajasthan and several other states, and the Congress did very poorly, and the NDA BJP did very well, he was persuaded to prepone the polls by about 5-6 months. In fact, the announcement of the polls was made as early as January, but they happened in May. And that was based entirely on the performance of the 4 state assembly elections in 2003, September, October, November, etc. And Mr. Vajpayee is informally supposed to have been on record in ruining the fact that he accepted the advice to prepone the elections.
Right.
Because 2004 got you what you know what it got you.
Yes.
Now, had Mr. Vajpayee done well in 2004, it is said, yes, that's good advice. Now that he's done badly, people are castigating those who gave that advice.
I take your...
So it's not so simple at all.
I take your point. I take your point. I'm not...
Counter argument is that if you are in fact seen to be doing badly in July, again, assumptions and presumptions on basis of your figures, then there is an attempt to improve situations. Maybe the economic climate improves, etc. So a longer term perspective of elections is better. So it's not so simple as giving these, quick knee-jerk reactions.
Can I get a quick reaction from Ravi Shankar Prasad? Ravi Shankar Prasad, history can repeat itself in various ways. 2003, you swept the 4 state elections except for Delhi in the state election. Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan. Yet you lost the general election because you chose the wrong alliance in Andhra and Tamil Nadu. Therefore, would you concede that what happens even if you win 3 out of 4 or assuming even 4 out of 4 of state elections, you could still have a long way to go before the Gaddi of Delhi is with you?
Rajiv, you may recall 2004 election results remain an enigma.
Yes.
Wrapped in riddles. If I can use Mr. Churchill's expression.
Yes.
How we won so convincingly in Chhattisgarh.
Yes.
How we won so well in Madhya Pradesh.
Yes.
How we did so well in Gujarat, in Uttarakhand. Therefore, there cannot be one benchmark. Yes, what happened in Andhra Pradesh certainly was a big shocker.
Yes.
But here, if I go to your own projections, I had occasion to see many of your survey results in this trend itself.
Yes.
You are also factoring in the state of inflation, the record of Government of India, how India has been misgoverned, and the woe of Congress party in these states is also referable to the way India has been governed by the party led by the government led by Congress party. Therefore, in your survey also, wittingly or unwittingly, the role of Government of India is very much in focus by the response of the respondents. Now, once the national election comes into being, you are surely going to have the same kind of disgust, almost critical opposition, strong revulsion among the people of the country against the way India has been governed. If Congress party is not willing to take the right lesson, good luck to them. Let them testify. But if my good friend Abhishek Manu Singhvi feels that if inflation could not be controlled in 4 years' time or 5 years' time, if Indian economy could not be put on rail in 2 to 3 years, they will do so in coming 3 months. Good luck to them. India is now in a poll mode.
I'm going to ask one last round of questions to the politicians before I turn to the experts, which is quite simply the leadership question. We've just discussed Modi versus Rahul, and we found, Yogendra, that that's a question on which at the moment Modi is winning that battle. Even in perception terms, people are now seeing him as decisive more than as divisive. Would you concede that that is what is also giving an edge at the moment? Even possibly in Delhi at the moment, when the real crunch comes, if Modi starts campaigning, it will give the BJP a jump because he is being seen at the moment as a person who can deliver. And in a presidential or plebiscitary kind of election that we are having, that is going to make a critical difference in the months ahead.
On Delhi, Rajdeep, I don't think Mr. Modi's presence is going to make much of a difference.
Yes.
Because voters of Delhi make a clear distinction between PM and CM.
Yes.
Also, I personally think Mr. Modi will actually not stake his reputation in Delhi. I want to test it out. I want to see how many rallies will Mr. Modi address. How much of his personal reputation will he put at test? That would be a test of his political courage.
Yes.
Let's check it out in Delhi. But more importantly, generally speaking, there is a political vacuum created by loss of legitimacy of the ruling elite, loss of political judgment, and loss of nerves. And in that situation, when people are desperately looking for an alternative, they are ready to suspend disbelief. That is where Mr. Modi walks in. He positions himself differently, presents himself as someone who has nothing to do with 2002 Gujarat, as someone who is decisive, strong, and so on. And yes, that message may have an appeal. In times of political vacuum, these things do happen, and Mr. Modi seems to be gaining from this. I'm not sure, though, if Mr. Modi has reached the kind of stature. Your poll would show that better, and you can look at the pictures. The kind of figures that Mr. Vajpayee had, where he was getting BJP votes beyond its normal constituency. Is that beginning to happen? I'm not sure.
Modi is still not reaching Vajpayee's popularity figures, that is true. But Abhishek Manu Singhvi, what is clear is Rahul Gandhi is also not rising at the moment. And the question is, and Dipankar Gupta almost suggested that one of the solutions is that you've got to replace the Prime Minister, even with a Sonia Gandhi possibly was what he suggested. That one of the problems that you're facing, Modi comes across as decisive because Manmohan Singh comes across as weak. And when you compare the two, that's where your problems are. So Rahul suffers because we don't know what he stands for. Manmohan suffers because he's seen as weak and indecisive. Modi comes across as decisive, and he comes across as someone who people believe is a performer and is committed to development. How do you respond to that?
Rajdeep, permit me my 2 minutes.
Yes.
First of all, I reject this plebiscitary presidential approach.
Why? Why are you rejecting
those
it?
Who have
this is the problem with the Congress.
I just started, Rajdeep.
This is the problem with the Congress. Why are you rejecting it?
I have a difference of view.
Okay, go ahead.
But if I disagree with you, is it a problem?
No, I'm saying our survey shows.
I'm not obliged to agree with you.
I'm wondering why the Congress is so against it.
Let me tell you why.
Yes.
I want to make 3 points. And since you've given such a long question with so many interventions, allow me at least a shorter answer than the question.
Yes.
First point, I reject the plebiscitary presidential approach. Yes, there are cases where there are some pulls and pressures on that front.
Yes.
But India ultimately does vote on parties,
yes,
on policies, along with personalities, not in the sole personality method.
Yes.
That's a wrong approach. And I'll give you a very good example.
Yes.
Again from history. Rewind to 2009.
Yes.
It's all now easy to forget because our memories are short. Mr. Advani tried almost identical things that Mr. Modi is trying. He attacked the Prime Minister.
Yes.
He projected himself as the Prime Ministerial candidate. He made it into a presidential contest. In 2009, exactly the same thing. Vituperative comments against
India was growing at 9% in 2005. We'll be lucky if we grow at 4.5%. In 2009, there were no corruption scandals. Today there are corruption scandals that have come every 6 months.
Despite your several interruptions,
yes,
you've just made my point.
Yes.
So it can't be a projection of weak and indecisive prime ministership.
Yes.
Yes. It's the general mood for 1.5 years.
Yes.
Please don't say 9 years.
Yes.
For 8.5 out of 10 years,
yes,
a great growth path.
Yes.
For 1 year, the party has been slightly spoiled because of overall economic climate.
Yes.
But don't ascribe it to this great decisive Iron Man of India, which doesn't exist, versus a weak Prime Minister. The third point is that Mr. Modi had almost been declared virtually, without being formally declared as Prime Minister candidate,
yes,
after which the BJP lost Karnataka, after which the BJP lost Himachal Pradesh. So don't think that there's a Modi wand out there.
Okay.
Let's just look carefully at 2009, and a very similar thing was tried by Mr. Advani. The only difference is Mr. Modi is trying it this year, not Mr. Advani.
Can I get then a quick response from all my panelists? You've heard the politicians for a moment, and before I go back to them, I want the first reaction. Sandeep Shastri, those figures, there are 4 states. As the psephologists, they are limited at the moment to 4 states. Do you believe we can extrapolate them and believe that this could lead to a momentum shift across India?
It could lead to a momentum shift. But who will be the beneficiary of that shift, I think, is an important question. In these 4 states, the BJP has been the beneficiary of a disenchantment with the ruling party. In other parts of India, it could be the BJP, it could be regional parties, it could be others. So there is a momentum shift, but which direction that shift actually takes could vary when you go beyond these 4 states which we are now polling.
Sopan, react to what you heard from Abhishek Manu Singhvi, that in 2009 there was a similar mood that LK Advani was being projected as the strong leader, Manmohan Singh was the weak man, the BJP lost. What is so different between Modi and Advani 2009?
If the results of the 4 assembly elections turn out the way you have projected in today's poll, then I think 2 things are quite clear. Number one, that with a loss in all 4 states, the Congress will probably be heading a lame duck government. That will inevitably result in the principal opposition party being the main beneficiary and a shift in focus to that. At present, that happens to be the BJP.
Why is Modi not Advani 2009?
Number 2,
yes.
The point is that the popularity ratings of Narendra Modi, contrary to what you have said, actually exceeds that of Atal Bihari Vajpayee in a similar situation.
Not in our polls. Not in our polls.
Yes, you look up your polls. If you go back to it, if you were in existence in 1996,
yes,
you would have found.
No, I'm talking about Atal Bihari Vajpayee. 1999 was higher.
I am talking about 1996 onwards. Yes, Narendra Modi's performance is far wider, his appeal is far wider
than even Vajpayee.
I know this may sound like heretical comment. It does not necessarily undermine Vajpayee. What it shows is that there is a different set of circumstances in which Modi is gaining. Now, the question which really boils down is that for the BJP to translate what seems to me hovering around the 200 mark to a position where they are in the 250 mark, I think they will need to, if they can utilize that momentum shift, to actually gain a few regional
I'm going to come to that those X factors that could make all the difference between 200 and 250, or between the Congress remaining at 100 and going up to 150. But Sachi, your first reaction: do you believe that the Congress is in denial, and is the BJP being prematurely euphoric at the moment?
Who is being premature? It's your poll.
Okay. One taken. You got me on that one. You got me on that one. Is the Congress living in denial?
So Congress is living in denial because, as Abhishek Manu Singhvi said, yes, the last 18 months have been very difficult and critical for the Congress. But then how you manage a very difficult time, that is a question, because in 2009, how they managed 2008 helped them in the Lok Sabha election. Then secondly, this thing is, again as I said earlier, this 70 seats do not give you the same kind of thing. So I still think BJP is not reaching that 170, 180 because it has a lot of work to do.
BJP has a lot of work to do. Dipankar, you saw the moment I raised the question about whether the terms of this debate need to change. That in some way, so long as Manmohan Singh remains a focus of Modi's attack, weak leader versus a decisive leader, the edge appears to be, as per our poll, with the BJP. Do you believe that those terms can be changed by the Congress, or is it now simply too late in the day, that therefore the momentum shift is firmly with the BJP?
Well, when I said plebiscitary, I didn't mean presidential, because presidential, there are organizations that stand behind you.
That's right.
Here, the organizations don't seem to matter, at least in public perception. However, to answer your question, please recall that in 2009, Manmohan Singh was a strong man. He was a machete-wielding politician who undercut the left front, and he brought in the nuclear deal, and the 2009 victory in many ways was Manmohan's victory, and Manmohan was a strong man. Number 2, and we must remember that Manmohan was not always seen as a weak person. In fact, a large number of people said that this was Manmohan's victory, the 2009 victory. The second thing is very important, and that is Congress in 2009 won practically half on its own urban seats.
That's right.
More than
on its own.
More than enough. Except for Bangalore, virtually every big city went with the Congress.
That's true, but UPA won more, but Congress on its own won little more than half the urban seats. UPA won much more. All right? Now the point is, what were people voting for? They're voting for a strong man, a machete-wielding artist who was not going to rest on his oars and let the boat just gently glide away. But What Manmohan Singh did in turn was, he didn't actually develop on that, didn't build on that. People are now voting for aspirations. Manmohan Singh seemed to represent that aspiration, which is why urban India voted for Manmohan Singh, and it is the same reason why Manmohan Singh has betrayed them, that the same urban Indian is now voting for aspiration looking at Modi.
But may I just quickly add one point? You know, someone on the panel was pointing out that the BJP needs to have some X factor to take itself beyond the kind of figure that you're projecting. Listen, you've not done a survey, Rajdeep, post what has happened in Muzaffarnagar. You've not done a survey post the kind of stories which have come out from parts of Karnataka and part of UP. I think that this X factor that we're talking about could well come up after what has happened in Bihar, for instance, where, you know, the number of bomb blasts which have taken place in a rally which was being addressed by Narendra Modi. Which is the party which stands to benefit? Is that the X factor that you need to look at a little more closely?
Can I look at those X factors? Let's take a look at those X factors and then come back to our politician. The X factors that we believe could yet determine who will win the battle for India. We're giving 6 today on the program. Will Modi and the BJP be able to sustain the momentum in the key battleground state of UP against Mulayam and Mayawati? Will the Congress go in for a pre-poll alliance in Bihar with Nitish or Lalu? Will the Telangana decision that could be taken in the winter session alter equations in Andhra Pradesh? Will fresh alliances emerge in Tamil Nadu? Will Raj Thackeray be a potential spoiler in Maharashtra and make it a three-cornered race? And will Yediyurappa's return or possible alliance with the BJP make a difference in Karnataka? I want quick points, starting with you, Abhishek Manu Singhvi. If there was one of those X factors that you are counting on to hope that when we do our next election tracker in a couple of months, things will change, what is that one factor that you believe can change between now and April?
No, I don't think it's just that one magic button at all. I think you have to work on many factors and you have to be very specific and ground specific. You have to have, for example, a Telangana properly explained and projected in Andhra, and that would be irrelevant in Maharashtra.
Yes.
In Maharashtra you have to explain the divisive nature of a potential Shiv Sena BJP government. By its very nature, you have to project what the Shiv Sena is likely to do when in power.
Yes.
In Karnataka, you have to remind people of what Yediyurappa was like when he had power and what he's going to be like if he has any power with anybody also. So it has to be state specific, it has to be context specific, and let me tell you, there are many issues. There's not one issue alone. But you have to tell people that, look, if you had the good times in economic terms at 8.5 plus for 8.5 years, you are 8.5 plus or 6.5 plus or 7.5% growth. You have the bad times for a variety of factors which will also
Would you call it therefore a problem of, do you believe that the Congress has not been able to communicate? Are you suggesting that the Congress has been unable to communicate the difficult times, or is it a problem of leadership? Dipankar Gupta said that the same Manmohan Singh was seen as a tough leader in 2009. Today the same Manmohan Singh is seen as a leader under siege.
See, first of all, Rajdeep, times change.
Yes.
It is true that there has been a spate of allegations, many of which were not there earlier. Now, the perception about the allegations sometimes matters more. Sometimes the perception that we have taken action and many have not been proved convicted or guilty also matters. Where it will pan out, we have to see. But what I was only saying was answering your real point, that there is no general blanket single magical button or bullet which you can bite.
Okay.
There are a number of issues which are state specific, ground specific, context specific, and I think holistically you have to push them all.
Okay.
And there somewhere a result comes.
Well, the fact is the Congress at the moment appears to many independent
I will
observers
take
as
leave
confused.
now, as you know, I have to go at 9:30.
It appears a little as confused. But Ravi Shankar Prasad, what is that X factor that you believe will make a difference? Because the critical factor remains Uttar Pradesh. Let's be clear. The difference between the BJP getting 170 Lok Sabha seats and moving towards 200 really lies in Uttar Pradesh. Please tell us, Ravi Shankar Prasad, how are you going to change the political map of Uttar Pradesh in the next 5-6 months? Competing against Congress, you seem to be doing well, but the regional parties and your own limitations of your geographical base, that could still hurt you, Ravi Shankar Prasad.
Rajdeep, first of all, Abhishek can devise his campaign strategy in a long time still.
Yes.
You know, always in a Lok Sabha election, the momentum and acceleration of one of the principal leaders of the alliance is the most important consideration. Let me be very blunt to you.
Yes.
If BJP is 120, 130, even our existing allies will leave us.
Yes.
And the day BJP crosses 180, 190, not only existing but 20 more will come, as happened in 98 and 99.
Are you talking of pre-poll or
Ultimately,
post-poll?
it is a game of numbers.
Are you looking for pre-poll or post-poll allies?
I'm saying both, Rajdeep. I'm saying both.
You're
Rajdeep, by temperament, I never make tall claims.
Yes.
But kindly mark my one sentence today.
Yes.
The result of Bihar and Uttar Pradesh in the coming Lok Sabha election in favor of BJP is going to be astonishing.
Okay.
Mark my word. I will not give the number. But since you asked me Uttar Pradesh,
yes.
Since I remain, excuse me, I remain very active on the ground.
Yes.
Recently involved in Patna rally.
Yes.
I know my state very well. I have been in charge of Uttar Pradesh in the past in some assembly elections. I keep a tab on Uttar Pradesh as well.
Yes.
Again, I repeat, the result of these two big states in Lok Sabha elections are going to be very, very astonishing in favor of BJP. Just keep that fact in mind.
You know, Yogendra Yadav, no one knows UP and Bihar as well as you do. Do you believe that these two states are seeing the shift? Is this the X factor? Because for the BJP, they need to win at least 30-35 seats at the very minimum in Uttar Pradesh, and they need to make gains in Bihar. Is this where the battle becomes tougher? That when it's bipolar versus Congress?
Rajdeep, I have to go. Can I complete, Rajdeep?
Yes, please go ahead.
Rajdeep, what is important is,
yes,
keep one factor in mind. Mr. Modi has addressed meetings in Patna, one of the biggest in the history of India.
Sir, crowds don't translate into votes
all the way in Bhopal.
Sir, you know crowds don't always translate into votes.
I know that. Also in Tirchi.
Yes.
At least give me some benefit of knowing
Sir,
my
but you're not going to win an election in Trichy. You're not going to win an election in Trichy. There are geographical limitations also. Let's look at the other side
Rajdeep, Rajdeep, allow me to complete my sentence, please.
Yes, go
I
ahead.
believe.
Yes.
I'm only trying to convey the national mood.
Okay.
From Tirchi to Bhopal, from Patna to Rewari, from Kanpur to Bahraich to Jhansi.
Yes.
Jhansi, we had only 4 MPs constituency meeting.
Yes.
Yet you have seen the turnout.
Yes.
All this is a yearning for the change. And if 3 months' time, your own projections can show a shift towards the BJP, who knows, in the coming 3 months, it will become a wave towards BJP. And surely, Narendra Modi leadership is playing a crucial role in that.
Can I therefore then get Yogendra Yadav? Yogendra, on UP and Bihar, do you share the optimism of Ravi Shankar Prasad?
I'm not so sure about Bihar because the situation is far more complicated there, and it's not clear. Of course, it's clear that Nitish would lose somewhat,
yes.
Maybe substantially, but it's not clear where the losses would go. But I think Uttar Pradesh is very critical, and Bhupen said something in passing and in a very subtle way. It's something we don't want to talk about. It's not something we all, are very comfortable discussing. But something is happening in UP. And could well take place in other places.
Are you saying a polarization? Are you saying there's a polarization? Let's be clear. Are you saying post Muzaffarnagar in UP there is a potential polarization that could benefit the BJP like it did in the early 90s?
The report suggested that Muzaffarnagar itself was an outcome of that kind of a thing and would lead to consequences which are of that kind. That's very important. Your poll is from one part of India, which is Congress BJP.
Yes.
Add to it possible gains in Gujarat, perhaps in Karnataka. But the real big push might come from Uttar Pradesh if situation remains the way there is. There is a political vacuum, there is intense communal polarization happening, and it is quite possible that secular politics of this country, complacent as always, may have underestimated what's happening there and the kind of consequences it might lead to. So there is a possibility of gains for BJP. Probably Bhupen was saying something.
No, I just wanted to make a clear point. You see, let's be very clear. I've been traveling on the ground, and let's be very clear that the one party which stands to lose the most because of what has happened in Muzaffarnagar, and in fact what has happened even today as we speak here, is the Rashtriya Lok Dal. The Rashtriya Lok Dal today has been completely annihilated.
That's Ajit Singh's party.
That's Ajit Singh's party which has been completely annihilated. The pockets of influence that a Mayawati had, or to an extent that an Akhilesh had because of his youthful appeal in the last assembly elections, all those pockets today are increasingly thinking of moving towards the BJP. So therefore the one party that stands to benefit, and if the BJP has to cross that threshold of 25 to 30 to 40 and 45 and God knows how many, that's the Western UP belt.
Let's then take a break at the point, and I'll get my panelists to then tell me what they believe is going to be the decisive factor in the next 6 months. What could make the difference between what appears to be our election tracker position at the moment, the NDA inching towards 200, and the possibility of a much closer fight. What's going to make the difference? The final X factors when we return. Welcome back to the CNN IBN, the week election tracker, which at the moment is showing that the NDA is edging towards the 200 mark if elections were held today, particularly on the strength of what's happening in the 4 battleground states that go to the assembly polls next month, and the Congress in the UP is lagging behind by almost 60-70 seats. So the gap is widened between July and October. Dipankar Gupta, you made a fascinating point. You believed earlier in the show that Narendra Modi, in a sense, is doing well because he's coming to represent the aspirations or the hopes of a particular section of people who believe those same aspirations and the hope were represented by Manmohan Singh in 2009. Now, is this purely an urban phenomenon, or do you believe it can cut across the urban-rural divide in the country? At the end of the day, you've got to win the countryside to win an Indian election.
Well, you know, I've said it before, I'll say it again. The Bharat versus India divide is a bogus divide. It doesn't really work. In all of rural India, the bulk of the economy is non-agricultural. Many years ago, when the Shilanyas business was happening, I was in West UP. I spent a lot of time in West UP. And I can tell you that Mahendra Singh Tikayat and company were against Shilanyas. His children were in favor of it. Today, his children are decision makers, and his children are almost urban. In the villages and yet urban outlook, because they're looking outside the mud walls, waiting for something to come up from somewhere and take them away. So today, you know, if you look at the urban-rural divide the old-fashioned way, you're going to be misled. If you want to look at Modi as a bright-eyed and bushy-tailed activist, the reason why it appears that way is because he is tapping the aspiration nationwide. There is no rural-urban divide in terms of aspirations. They all want to be where the bright lights are.
That's fascinating. So you believe Modi is being able to tap into those aspirations beyond urban India? There's a new aspirational young India.
We should stop thinking of felt needs. We should start thinking of felt aspirations.
Spoken like a good political sociologist. But Sachinandan Murthy, you've been consistently saying, putting that rider, saying, look at other states where things could become very different to the states that we've surveyed so closely in this round of the tracker. Which part do you believe is that black hole for the BJP and the NDA?
I'm looking at the eastern coast of India. Take Bengal, 42 seats. Take Orissa. Take Andhra Pradesh. I mean, Tamil Nadu and Kerala, West Coast. These are states where the BJP doesn't have a strong organization or a strong traction, unless, you know.
So you don't go by the theory of Ravi Shankar Prasad that there is a wave from Trichy all the way a sense to northern India.
No, if you have 25,
they don't have the organizational base to translate even the goodwill into votes.
If you have a minimum base of 25%, Modi can take it to 40, 45%, 50% maybe.
But they don't
even
even have
happen
that.
in Bihar, it can happen in UP.
But not in eastern India.
Not in eastern.
Not in eastern and southern India. That is the weakness. How is, let's be clear. You've been saying, Sopan, throughout that the BJP wants to make this presidential, let's call it plebiscitary in a way, but Narendra Modi, the issue of this election. How does Modi overcome the geographical weaknesses that the BJP has that even Atal Bihari Vajpayee could not? At his best, the BJP got 182 seats under Vajpayee.
Let's address both the questions.
Yes.
In terms of respective popularities, and I'm grateful to Sandeep Shastri for giving me those figures just now. If you look at Vajpayee's popularity as the preferred choice for Prime Minister in 1996,
yes,
it was 23%.
Yes.
In 1998, it was 27%, the period at which the BJP got its high. It's only from 1999, when he'd been in Prime Minister already and the Kargil war had taken place, that his ratings shoot up quite dramatically.
Yes.
So, in terms of that, the 35% ratings which Narendra Modi gets by your polls, and remember, I'm comparing him with the CSDS polls. So I think we are seeing a substantial spread of Narendra Modi's support. Number two, I think if you look at the places in the past 4 elections where the BJP has come first or second, it will be 297 constituencies in this country. The target, the catchment area for the BJP are these 297.
But BJP needs a 75% strike rate in that catchment area.
You need a very high strike rate, and therefore, to offset precisely those geographical disabilities.
He needs what I call a northwest monsoon. He needs to sweep from Gujarat all the way to Bihar.
He needs to sweep.
So he needs a wave.
He needs a wave, and at least in these parts of India.
Okay, he needs a wave which we are only seeing at the moment a momentum. Whether we are seeing a wave is a question mark at the moment. Yes, Professor Shastri.
Yes. One, let's remember our last tracker showed that in South India and in East India, the Rahul Modi battle was a non-issue in terms of voters' perceptions. I think we must budget that into this discussion. Number two, I think as we move forward towards the Lok Sabha elections, while the big states of UP, Bihar, Tamil Nadu, Andhra are important, Maharashtra important. But let's remember 2014 is going to be 28 different elections.
You still
Every
believe that?
state is going to see a different verdict.
Unless Modi can show that it is a wave election. That's his challenge. In recent times, elections have been aggregates of state elections.
That's the conventional way of looking at politics, but let's be clear. If our own survey, if CSDS's own results is pointing out, Rajdeep, from July to October, there has been this amount of incremental, vote in favor of Narendra Modi.
This is four states.
I mean, imagine what will be the results if you were to be doing it December or January.
We will look at those states. Our next election tracker, I promise you, will look at all the states of the country, and then we'll get a clearer idea. Yes, Dipankar, you want to make one quick point?
I just want to make one quick point in line with felt aspirations. If you look at the places where Modi is doing well, you'll find Madhya Pradesh has done very well in terms of growth, GDP. Chhattisgarh has done very well, in spite of the fact Chhattisgarh low HDI. In terms of GDP has done very well. Rajasthan has done very poorly economically. And it so happens Rajasthan's governed by Gehlot and the Congress. So that too must be factored in.
You must
give me 20 seconds. I take your point.
Last time I met Narendra Modi, he told me that, Bhag Milkha Bhag, which has been this biggest success, he said, look at my story. I'm a chai wala's son. I was selling tea by a roadside stall.
We have to see whether that story works. We have to see whether that story works, Kashmir to Kanyakumari.
It's always healthy to be skeptical. But I fear that sometimes being overtly skeptical may be counterproductive.
I certainly am not. If anything, right through this survey, what we have said clearly is a momentum shift away from the Congress and towards the BJP, far away from skepticism. But let me give the final word to you, Yogendra. I just have 30 seconds. How would you summarize the mood as you see it from the election tracker, including the state where you're fighting from, Delhi, at the moment? 30 seconds.
The overall mood seems to suggest that because the ruling party and coalition is dropping dramatically, there is a possibility that NDA might recover some of its standard base which it had around 2004. I don't see them going beyond their standard base. At the same time, there is one X factor that you must factor at the risk of sounding partisan, which is the result in Delhi. If Aam Aadmi Party wins clearly, I know that's not what your poll is suggesting, but I would plead with you not to rule that possibility out. If Aam Aadmi Party wins Delhi outright, then it introduces those little 7 seats, wouldn't change the fate of India, wouldn't change all the calculations, but it might change the chemistry. People might begin to see, instead of substitutes, they maybe begin of a search for alternatives. And that can be one of the X factors. It may not change calculations, but something else.
Okay, well, we leave that for another day. Maybe Aam Aadmi Party, if not 2014, we'll see where it goes in the years ahead. But I appreciate your joining us as well. At the end of the day, we leave it to the great Indian voter to decide what he or she wants in the assembly elections and what he or she wants in the general elections. For now, just enough time to thank all my panelists for what's been a fascinating week on the election tracker. We'll be back with many more trackers. This is the battle for 2014 on CNN IBN. Just enough time also to wish my viewers a cracker of a Diwali. Good night. Goodbye.